I was in a fairly sterile conference room in the central Netherlands. Not exactly an exciting place to be in a lot of ways. And a young man, PhD candidate named Alistair, was giving a practice job talk. He had about 82 slides that he was trying to cram into about 15 minutes. You can't do it. His colors were mismatched. His graphs were akimbo. I have no idea what he was talking about. And I asked myself in that moment, what am I doing here? The room was 20, 25 cognitive psychologists and linguists, myself among them. And about half of them had PhDs, the other half were working on their PhDs, bright little bunch. But I felt like an outsider there. Nobody in this group was interested in the research areas I was into. Nobody was using the same methods. My boss, who had hired me, had left her position, so I'd been kind of adopted by this department, and that made me kind of an agitated young man, right? I was the difficult guy in lab meeting, and I was like, what's going on here? Why are we doing this? I just didn't feel like I had an intellectual home there. So that was a Tuesday morning. The next Wednesday, I'd just seen a symposium talk, right? Some professor flown from halfway across the world, because that's the only way to get to the Netherlands is you leave halfway across the world to get there. And I was standing around afterwards with my colleagues, Allie and Sarah, lovely, lovely characters. And we were talking about what we had just seen and how none of us were able to process what we had just experienced. And I thought, well, this is a problem that I keep having. This isn't good. Our higher-ups, the administration, they kept saying, oh, you guys should be collaborating with each other, right? So Allie, Sarah, and I were from different departments, and we're just standing there like, what are we supposed to be doing, though? Like, we don't understand these talks that we're at. This isn't on us completely, I don't think. At night, though, I'd go home. I lived alone in an apartment. I didn't know any of my neighbors. I had a Quizzo team. Right, I wasn't totally alone. I had a couple people I could go to IKEA with on Saturday. But I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. These people would fly in from all over the world, semantics experts, learning experts, and they couldn't communicate what they were doing. So there was this irony there that I just couldn't work out. So I'd be in my kitchen late in the evening alone. I'd pour myself a nice Dutch beer. And I would take on a kitchen project. Now, one of the things that always amused me there was I owned a Dutch oven, but I also owned a Dutch oven. So I put the Dutch oven in the Dutch oven. And I would catch myself occasionally baking a cake, eating half of it on my own in one evening, and then chasing it with a nightcap of sweetened condensed milk straight from the can. I highly recommend it if you've never tried it. And something else was happening in the kitchen at that time. I was listening to podcasts, which weren't really a thing then. This was before Serial happened. But I was listening to dozens of different podcasts, because on weekends I would take myself for little trips, right? I'd take the train somewhere, just explore, try to find out where am I going to land? Where am I going to go next? And I was listening to one podcast called Risk, which was telling these outrageous stories of human behavior and deviance, and just things going totally awry. And it was gripping. And then I would follow that up with a series called The Story Collider, which is stories about science in people's lives. And what was happening was I kept listening to these stories and thinking, I'm getting more out of these podcasts from strangers than I am out of the talks that I'm paid to go see that are in my field. What's going on here? And I realized that the learning and language and memory experts are all very bright, but the storytellers, the podcasters, they were prepared, they were connecting, they delivered something to me, and they transported me to somewhere else. So I met up with Sarah and Allie again, And I said, let's try something new. Let's try something radical. We're going to get the other postdocs together, and we're going to share what it is we do and how we do it and why we do it. Allie, she studies how 6-month-olds turn their heads to different sounds. I still don't understand it, even though she explained it very well. Sarah had a PhD from Oxford in glycobiology and studied mouse genes, which I think are very small. I had studied spoken word recognition, word learning, accent understanding, all sorts of great stuff, right? But I couldn't tell an Erlenmeyer flask from a beaker. And importantly, what we did was we just brought our lunches to the table and with intention shared how the hell we do what we do. We put into place a space and a format that the administration was not doing for us. So I realized that the thing that I needed to do was take a look at science. How do people talk about it? How do scientists talk about it? Most importantly, to each other. And understand how do we repackage that like the podcast that I was listening to. And I finally understood that I wasn't going to be a linguist for the rest of my life. I wasn't going to be an academic forever. I was going to sit down with people and listen to them and help them share their stories in different ways. And so that's what I do now. I do also enjoy sweetened condensed milk from the can from time to time. Thank you.